Okay, guys, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Power Lunch. I am excited to have Olivia Himmel. I want to say Olivia Kobayashi.
Okay.
Always.
It's still technically correct.
Okay. With us, she has put together what she's calling a process packet. And you guys know how much I love numbers. You know how much we depend on numbers in our area to play by the rules of the Mary Kay game. So what she's done is when you go to do a team 30, you know, the faces, the skincare sets, the recruits. When you do team 50 or 100, you know the results that you need to get from those, how many faces for a perfect start, power start, pearls of sharing, etc. What she's done is taking you through the process. Obviously, when you're new, and if you have people that you already know, you may not have to get a lead to go through this process. So you jump into the booking part of it. But she's taking you from getting a lead through the whole process to the face, which I love. And so this resource that she designed, and thank you so much for giving me an editable format. It's edited and on my website. So at Otten-Sweeney.com under everything skincare class that you can print out for yourself. But I don't want you to go and look at it while you're listening to this, because she's going to screen share and explain and apply. And so this will be recorded, and this will also be on my YouTube channel under Full Circle playlist. So Olivia, thank you for sharing, and take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on today, Dawn. And to start off, I just wanted to share like how this idea came into my brain. I literally think I was in the shower one day. That's where we get all of our best ideas, right? And I'm just finding that over the past couple of years, I think that consultants have gotten more confused, and we all know that a confused mind does nothing. And I simply think that's a result of now working this hybrid business. It's like double to keep track of when we're working in person and working hybrid. And so I was thinking back to when I was a consultant and when I was working to move up the career path, go on target for my first free car, get into DIQ. And what really made the difference for me back then was getting truly obsessed with the numbers. And, you know, I know your guys' national is like she said, she loves numbers. I've been trained by her most of my career. So a lot of this is just going to be building upon that foundation that you already know. But I thought I would have some cute visuals here for you guys to see. Like back in the day, I used to keep this little notebook, and I literally just made tally marks every single day of how many booking attempts I made and how many people actually booked an appointment with me. And then I totaled it up. Look, it's the back of this like old envelope. I totaled it up. It was February 1st through March 31st of 2015. And I made almost 1,000 booking attempts. And during that 4-month period, the numbers averaged out exactly to Mary Kay math, where half the appointments that I booked, or 1 in 10 of those 1,000 leads booked an appointment. Half of those appointments held. Half of those appointments were parties, not just single or double facials, but parties. And so the numbers were perfect over a 4-month period, but I had a large sample size. I had almost 1,000 leads during that time period. And so that's what really jump-started me. And then after that 4-month period back in 2015, I did earn the use of my free car a month later, entered DIQ, and then was a new director 4 months after that. And so I think we've kind of lost some of that during the pandemic of just getting back to, it really is simply about the numbers. And I'm finding that consultants are like wondering why they're not already finishing Queen's Court of Sales, or they're wondering why they're not already in their red jacket or have their 8 in the gate. And it simply is just because we haven't done enough numbers. And now that we're in the last about 6 weeks of the seminar year, this is the time for a big push. And you guys, your numbers are like, I was thinking of a good metaphor to use today. And if any of you came from a sports background like I do, we always ate a lot of pasta the night before we had a big game to carb load, right? So that we could perform better the next day. And I feel like your numbers is like your carbo loading, like you're just loading up on numbers so that on June 30th, you have a lot to pull from and you can push it all out and push it through at the end. So I would encourage you to use this tool sort of in that manner. So I'm going to share my screen and show you how you can have all your numbers in one place and not so much confusion about, why we're not getting the results that we want, because that's the other thing that I love about numbers. I personally love tracking numbers because it takes all the emotion and the frustration and the confusion out of it. Because then you can look and say, oh, well, if I only made 10 booking attempts, it would make sense that I may or may not have held one appointment from those 10 booking attempts, right? And then you're confident in knowing that it has nothing to do with your own skill. It has nothing to do with if you're cut out for this Mary Kay thing, or, if you're meant to be in Mary Kay or not, or maybe this is a sign from God, that I shouldn't be doing this. No, it's just that we only made 10 booking attempts. So this helps to bring clarity to all of that. And you'll notice that at the top of every page, there's a number, because this is a process. Like, everything starts with your leads. If you don't have leads, you can't get bookings, you can't get sales, you can't get skincare customers, all of the above. And so everything starts with leads. So this shows you, obviously, there is room for 30 leads on here, but it's giving you your numbers right at the top so that you can feel confident knowing that about, on average, 1 in 10 of these leads will cancel. Will book, and half will cancel. So if you're a brand new consultant and you're working from your A leads or your warm market, and Dawn talks about what that is in her boot camp training, the difference between your A, B, and C leads, your averages might be a little bit higher when you're brand new. They might not be, though. You might not have a very supportive warm market. But once you get to the point where you're working from mainly B and C leads, which I got to that point after about my first month in my Mary Kay business, I went through my A leads pretty quickly. Then your averages are going to be about 1 in 10. So of the 3-ish parties that might be booked from this leads page, you'll see there's a directive on every page. So now we're going to transfer the appointments that we actually booked to our booked page. So this is where we go to number 2. You see number 2 at the top of booked page, because that follows obviously the leads that we're booking from. So there's 2 different sections here. One for your appointments that you're booking in person, one for if you're booking virtual appointments. And so again, another good reminder of your numbers here, that if you're going to fill this entire page, so 20 bookings, you need on average about 200 leads, or 7 of the leads pages from above. I just launched this to my unit last week, and my consultants who've printed it off, for example, they printed off multiple copies of this leads page, so that you have a lot of extra space. So when you're putting it into your own 3-ring binder, just print off a bunch of the leads page so that you can have that together. But I also guess I should probably touch on what these different columns are on the leads page. So obviously we're just gonna write her name, and then where did the lead come from? Because that's another thing, is I think consultants are losing some of their leads. They're losing track of their leads, literally, because we get leads from so many different avenues of life. And I saw that Dawn typed that in the chat, like they could come from referrals, they could come from a vendor event, and now we get leads from social media. So sometimes it's like, where did I even meet this person? And so we write that here. And then I personally do 3 booking attempts for every lead. And so I'm just checking the box. Did I do the first attempt? Did I do the second attempt? Did I do the third attempt? And then I'm checking the box if she booked the appointment with me. So pretty simple, because this is helpful, because sometimes I go back and think that I already did my 3rd attempt with a batch of leads, but then I look at my actual tracking sheet and I only did 2 attempts. I'm like, oh shoot, I never went back and did my 3rd attempt with those people. And so that helps to keep all of that organized as well. So then once they've booked and I've transferred them to the book page, and always keep in mind, you guys, that's why bookings from bookings are really important. So if you feel intimidated by, oh my gosh, I have to have 200 leads. Well, first of all, you always need new leads in your business. There's never going to be a time when you don't need more leads. And it's not like, especially if you're new, I don't want you to sit down and say, oh my gosh, well, I don't know 200 people right now, so how am I supposed to get? This comes as you start building your business and working your business. It's okay if you don't have 200 leads immediately right now today. I'm just saying that if you want to get to the point where you're filling out this full page, on average, you will need to have attempted to book about 200 people. So it's your choice if you're going to do that in 1 week, in 1 month, and 3 months. That goes to Dawn's, team, 30, 50, 100. It's how quickly do you want to achieve those results, is going to dictate, how fast you fill up this page. And how quickly you find 200 people to contact. But you always need fewer leads if you get really good at your bookings from bookings, because when you get bookings from bookings, you just put them right back here on this page as a new booking, and then you don't have to go out and get those leads. So that's why mastering your bookings from bookings is always going to be really important. So you'll notice that on the in-person, it says half of these in-person appointments will cancel. And then for your virtual appointments, the statistics are half won't respond to you or they will flop. And so for my Facebook parties, for example, I don't have very many cancellations. I actually don't think I've ever had a cancellation for a Facebook party, but sometimes I just don't get anything from that party. Sometimes I don't get any customers. I don't get any sales. It just kind of flops. And then on the other side of that, I had several Facebook parties last week, one sold over 700. I had 2 that sold over 400. And then I had 2 that nothing really happened. So that was about average for about 5 or 6 parties. So that's kind of the same thing as half your in-person appointments canceling. About half of your virtual parties will just flop, whether you do them on Zoom, whether you do Post My Party, whatever. This third column on the virtual, in my unit, we have our own Facebook group. You guys probably do something similar where all consultants can invite all of their guests, and we do skincare classes where people can just sign 1 or 2 faces up individually. Or, if you're doing a personal one-on-one FaceTime, I've done that as well. So when we have our in-person appointments, when we know it's going to be a party, it's not just going to be a single or double facial, but when we know it's going to be a party, a group of people, we're going to transfer that to the party page because there's more pre-profiling that needs to happen. We get more company average results when we're doing parties. And then we also have a party page for the virtual appointments as well. So if we go down to our in-person party, there's enough space on here for about 3 parties. You'll notice I only put enough room for 8 faces for each party. That's because I found in my personal experience that 7 or 8 is about the max that I like to have at an in-person party, because our in-person parties are different than other companies, right? We're not just trying to pack your house full of however many people you can fit. We're trying to sit women around the table, build a relationship, teach them skincare. And that just becomes a lot more difficult to do if you have 9 or 10 or 11 people there. At that point, it's more of like a show and tell and kind of like a mingling, because you can't just have 10 women who are all friends sit down and listen to you, for an hour and a half or however long. Also, the more people you get in-person parties, what I have found is your average sale per face goes down. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that you're just going to sell more the more people you have, because that's not necessarily true. They're more distracted if there's a ton of people there. So this helps you to know that if you're properly coaching your parties, parties that are coached well are always going to be better for you and for the guests, because everybody's expectations are well managed. So this just helps you to keep that organized. Do you have her skin type? Did she actually attend the party? Because usually for in-person parties, not everybody attends. So this is how you know how many faces you actually did. Did she book a follow-up appointment? Is she a recruit prospect? On any of these pages where you see SCC, that means skincare customer. So that means she bought a daily skincare routine where she's at least cleansing and moisturizing twice a day. If she bought a cleanser and a charcoal mask, she's not a skincare customer. So just making that differentiation, because we want to track our skincare customers, and then of course your sales. And then this gives you a total for each party. How many total new skincare customers did I get? And what were my total sales from that party? So again, at the top here, keeping your numbers in front of you. If you're going to book 3 parties, you need to have 60 leads that you've attempted to book from, because you'll book 6 from 60, but about half of those are only going to be 1 or 2 people, and they're not going to be parties. They're not going to be groups of women. So when you get follow-up appointments booked, you get bookings from bookings, then you just take those follow-up appointments and take them right back to your booked page. So That's how you can also see, while using bookings from booking on this book page, you can keep this filled when you're getting really good at booking those follow-up appointments. And then when you have prospects, we're transferring those to the prospects page, which will come later. Okay, so for virtual parties, I'm going to do the little rotation thing here. So again, about 10 leads to book one party. A lot more to keep track of with virtual parties. At least that's my experience, right? Because it's not all just happening in the one time frame in the house. There's a lot of communication that happens ahead of time. There's a lot of follow-up afterwards. And so I like to send samples out for my virtual parties. So I need to check the box if I actually sent her sample kit, because you think you'll remember, but if you've got 60 faces in 1 week virtually, it's really easy to lose track if you actually sent somebody their samples or not. Did she register on your personal website? Was she actually on the live, whether you're doing Facebook Live or Zoom? So did she actually attend the party? Did she book a follow-up appointment, or is she a booking from a booking? Does she decide to host her own party? If you're doing prize entries at your party, like for my Facebook Live parties, there's a prize drawing. So I write down how many entries she got. Is she a prospect? Again, is she a skincare customer? How much did she buy? So same thing, we're transferring our prospects to the prospects page, book to the book page. Okay, so next, we have faces at a glance. So all your faces that actually attended the appointment, they attended the virtual party or the in-person party. These numbers at top here are really important, you guys, because when you're doing strictly in-person business, your new skincare customers are probably going to range more between the 30 and 50% are going to become new skincare customers. But when you're working a hybrid business, that percentage goes down because people are just going on your website and they're just picking out whatever they want. And so you're way more likely for somebody to piecemeal and do an a la carte type of order when you're working virtually. I've tracked my faces since January, probably 75 to 80% of them have been virtual. The rest have been in person. And yeah, it's about 18% of those faces have become skincare customers. And then your average booking is going to be about 3 to 4 faces. So this is taking into account your single or double facials. Now, if you're doing a lot of virtual, this might actually go up because it's really easy to have 10, 15, 20 faces in a Facebook party or a Zoom party. So just, get used to knowing your own numbers. That's the whole point of doing this. So then you're able to see how many of the faces that you actually did became skincare customers, because this helps you to know your numbers so you can project out your own personal averages when you're working towards goals. A new consultant might average $30 to $50 per face. A seasoned consultant is going to be, $100 per face plus. And those numbers are always going to go down a little bit when we're working hybrid. So just knowing that so that you can have your own expectations managed moving forward. Okay, and then now we're going on to our prospects. So again, 1 in 5 interviews will sign. And you guys notice that interview is a separate column than your peek in a pink, your video survey, your guest event. Doing an interview, whether it's in person or on the phone, is a whole separate part of the layering process, which is essentially what this is, the layering sheet. I've just been using a spiral notebook for the last several years. Every person I interview, I jot all this information down, and the blank space is left for you to take notes about, like, what season of life is she in? What are her objections? Does she have a timeline of when she thinks she might be more interested? Did you discuss a date that you will follow up with her? And that's where you keep track of all these notes. Because again, you're going to think you're going to remember, but you won't, especially when you're doing a high volume of people. So I go back probably once or twice a month and I flip through all of my prospects, and I'll see, like, oh, I was supposed to follow up with Susie, sometime in the spring. So I need to give her a call because I haven't talked to her since February. And so it helps you keep tabs on your recruit prospects and if you've layered them properly. So again, about 1 in 5 of these will sign. Your averages will go up the more seasoned and more skilled you become and the more numbers that you go through. Like your director and certainly Dawn have probably higher than a 1 in 5 average for the people who they interview. And so then once we get our recruits, we transfer them lastly to our team page. And again, this is number 5 because it comes after the leads and the faces and the bookings. And then the last thing, number 6, is your team. So this is really important, you guys. I see so many people trying to move into Red, trying to get into DIQ, and they get so discouraged when not every person on their team is active, when somebody doesn't call them back. These are normal numbers, you guys. And you can ask your director, you know, of all the women in your unit who are active, about a third of them are not, you know, and a third of them are just hanging out and they place an order once a year. So it's the same numbers. So if you want to fill this page, if you want to have 3 or 4 active team members, on average, you're probably going to need to recruit 9 people to always have, you're always going to need 9 people on your team to be in a red jacket on average. So of course, these numbers can be skewed if you just start recruiting and you have a lot of momentum under your belt, but this is how it's going to average out. And that helps you to know that when a third of your team never calls you back, it has nothing to do with you. It's just simply the numbers. And so I hope that you guys find this tool helpful, especially as we go into the last 6 weeks of the seminar year. You know, like I said, this is like the carbs that you eat before you have to play the sport the next day, and it's going to push you through. Because you guys, when I've been able to pull things together in my business, you know, the first time I achieved the Queen's Court of Sales, I don't know if it was 6 or 7 years ago, I had to do more wholesale in June than I had ever done. But I also had a ton of bookings in June. And so I was able to pull it together. And I had also done years of building a customer base so that I could run a customer sale and sell a lot of products, because I have a big customer base because of all of the bricks that I had laid in that foundation beforehand. When you do a lot of faces, when you interview a lot of people, you've planted a lot of seeds so that when you're trying to achieve the Princess Court of Sharing for the first time, or the Queen's Court of Sharing for the first time, you actually have people to call, because you've planted the seeds and been doing the work. You know, sometimes we get discouraged when we, you know, it's the last day of the month and we're trying to pull together, but we have not been doing the work to back up the results that we want. So we have nothing to pull together at the last minute. So when you put these numbers in right now, you know, even if these people aren't going to join your team right now, even if they're not going to book a party for you right now, it's a lot of seeds that you're planting so that when you have to pull things together in June at the end of the quarter, you actually have things to pull from. So, okay, I'll stop my screen share. And Dawn, let me know if there's anything else, if there's questions or anything that you want me to touch on. Oh, you're still muted. Yeah.
I'm gonna stop the recording, and if anyone has questions, we can go for like 5 more minutes. But for the people who are watching this as a recording, so Olivia was talking about starting with the leads. So that's leads in everyday life. That's leads. That's a traditional boot camp. So if you don't know how to get the pipeline filled through 5 different avenues, you have no idea what that is talking about, or leads A, B, and C, you need to listen to the boot camp audio training on my YouTube. Also in the playlist, Full Circle Skincare, you can see how in a miracle set or a repair set or a color party, how to get bookings from bookings and referrals. That's all there on my website, Otten-Sweeney.com. For the website, under Everything Skincare class section, has all the tools, the written tools to support this, as well as this packet. So I just wanted to circle back around, because when people look at one resource at the expense of everything else, I do not want you barraging Olivia with questions because you have been unwilling to look for the resources and listen to those. Because literally now, like I have curated training. So between what's on Mary Kay and Touch to see, you know, more generic Mary Kay, right, that the company puts out very professionally, and then customized from legacy training and my 37 years this week, you have all the resources that you need to fill in all those lines and make all those things work. And I always want to protect my trainers, because it's easier just to find Olivia and ask her a question than it is for you to go through and use the resources. So thank you, Olivia, so much for helping us. You did that packet's beautiful. And it supports, I feel like it was a missing link between boot camp and the video training and what was on my website. So thank you for providing that. And thank you for taking your time today to share this with us. Let me
My
hop
pleasure.
off the recording. I don't really know how. All right, there we go.